I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And to our incredible panelists, thank you so much for taking some of your time and your busy schedules to share some of your experience and wisdom, with us today. I also want to thank the Association of Music Producers, the West Coast Board, and everyone who helped us make this panel possible. So thank you all for being here. I wanted to start by asking you, Andres and Mauricio, questions. So many people in the industry describe like Despacito as a pivot point or catapult for this takeover of Latin music in the American market. What do you say to that, and how has that time, and in these few like 6 or 7 years, how has that changed the opportunities both in the mainstream world and the ad world for you guys for such a breakthrough?
I think definitely Despacito was the perfect storm. Despacito was like Spotify was becoming a huge thing in the world, and in Latin America was growing, and all of a sudden it didn't matter where you were listening to every kind of music, and all of a sudden this song started catching fire in the Latin space, and then Justin Bieber jumped on it, and it created the perfect storm, and it definitely was like a big statement for us. Of course, it changed our careers and it changed our lives, and it's amazing what happened with that song. But I do agree that it changed a little bit the landscape of the appetite for Latin music. I think it opened up people to music in Spanish, to maybe not knowing what it says, but like enjoying the rhythm, maybe singing that song or any other song in the Latin space a lot more. So I think it's one of those things that happens that nobody made it happen. It was literally like this serendipity element is crazy on that. So yeah, the perfect storm that created a wave, definitely. There has been many in the history of Latin music. Is not the first, but definitely is the last one that we have seen. And now you can see the result. It hasn't stopped. Like you go into the charts and it's Bad Bunny and it's all these Latin stars are conquering the world. So it is pretty great to have been a part of that, and we keep doing it, and we keep doing that Latin music with the same intensity because we believe that we can maybe this time make it last way longer.
It changed the appetite for the public for Latin music, but it also changed the appetite like from the artist perspective, because now you can do something like that. Even though it's pretty impossible to have a perfect storm, they all know, and we all know, that we can sit down and write a song in Spanish and make it a hit in, I don't know, Korea or Germany. So it changed a lot of things, and it was a pretty amazing moment for us, of course.
Absolutely. No, and it's funny, it's time and place, because if you look further back, like when you wrote Yo Te Esperaré, for example, that's a song that was so ahead of its time. You were writing and had a production that was you could compare it with what like Rihanna and Eminem were doing at the time. But sometimes it's not until there's certain things click, and like Andres said, a serendipity where things merge, that the audience starts captivating. Maybe the audience wasn't ready for that kind of a sound, and it's beautiful to see that we're in a day and age where people are appreciating it and in a worldwide audience, so that's fantastic. When did you guys feel like this change actually happening, and how that has changed a little bit of the opportunities in your careers, both as an artist, as a music, somebody that's searching for music for the brands itself?
What became undeniable is when you started to look at the Spotify charts, and you would see that Bad Bunny has one of the largest followings of all artists on the platform. And that, to me, I mean, proof is always in the numbers. And to me, that was the definitive time where I was like, my brands can't ignore what's happening out there. And I think that, music with a Latin influence has such a greater potential to reach a wider audience, because, as a music supervisor, oftentimes you're thinking like inside your US boundary, but when you apply that world tone to it, you have the ability to reach so many more people and gain their interest, and then they'll be talking about your brand.
Absolutely.
I also think something really unique even about what Andres and Mauricio did is like they took ownership and they honed into a sound and did something that not a lot of people were doing, but at the same time wasn't, that phrase, like there's nothing new under the sun. I think it's more like they had like el atrevimiento, like they had the boldness to be like, we're going to do this. And I'm sure it was years in the process of like writing songs, scratching ideas, maybe writing a few bad ones before a good one came, and like figuring out like how they worked as a unit. And I think for me as an artist, like it's been the same thing, where when I first started, I started writing just English music, even though I literally was born in Miami, I'm Cuban, I was raised in Puerto Rico, and I was cheating myself and really the world of like being able to tap into who I am as a Latina, like being multicultural and being expressing myself bilingual or whatever. It's not something that I need to try and make happen. And I think that's where, you know, things start taking a turn, is when you take ownership and when you understand that you're not just a voice, you're also a mirror. Like there's somebody out there that sees themselves in the things that you're doing when you're truly like authentic to who you are. And so for me, I feel like everything changed when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start writing music in Spanish, and like not being afraid to see where this sound takes me. I almost felt like nobody was going to connect to it because I'm a Latina, but sometimes that makes me not American enough. But I'm American. I live in LA, but then being in America, it's like, you're so Latina. And it, like, I chose to use that as my strength and as the thing that like kind of makes me stand out in my own way, in my own unique voice. And so when I started doing that and investing into that without even trying to like make the hit, or without even like trying to like make, you know, people like Deutsche LA, you know, butter sync music, like notice me, I was just being true to me and doing me, keeping my head down. Like that was the moment where in a way things started to pop off. And I'm still like not where I want to be, but I'm really thankful looking back that like I took that step to take ownership and be like, I'm going to use my most authentic voice. And then to feel like it was so welcome, and not only welcome, but like there's like an appetite for it in the world of music, where it's like, no, we need more of this. And there's a sound that does not exist that has your name on it. And I think that exists for everyone in their own like unique capacity. And so there's so much like freedom when you start creating from that place.
We were talking about uniqueness, and you know, there are songs written for sync, right? But some great advice that I heard on that panel was always finish that song that you think isn't a sync song, because 9 times out of 10, that's the one that's interesting enough. Your creative director is going to listen to it twice. Your brand is going to listen to it twice. So like there is an element of remaining true to your own craft, to your uniqueness, that I think is actually paying off in this day and age, where like the formula for a sync song is, at this point, it's almost in everyone's DNA, whether or not they realize it. They watch it on TV all the time. They see it in ads. So when you put something in there that feels so true to you, that's going to get a little bit boost of attention. It's going to stand out from the rest. Finish those wild songs is the point.
And Felipe, you pride your work on authenticity. You know, you travel the world making albums that are completely true to their nature, to their essence and the culture. How do you think that's affected, you know, today's industry?
Well, the opening act to the adventures of the record label that we created was on music back in 2015, 16. It was almost colliding with the perfect storm that Andres and Mauricio were creating over there. And what I felt was happening back then is that people were given bottles of water to just kind of like sprinkle on them, and no one knew that they wanted so much water. And then these guys brought the storm, and all of us Latin Americans had been looking at, okay, we need to change and maybe do a chameleon mission into blending into the Anglo world. And then all of a sudden, people wanted what we were doing. And from them it became like, wait a second, like Despacito, who are the producers of Despacito? Who are the producers of the music that we are seeing in world stages? Who is doing the music for the World Cup and the Olympics that were happening in Rio and in Brazil? And all of a sudden there was like a world stages, world happenings kind of showed people that there was a whole universe of Latin American music there that was not what they had been fed through the same composers, through the same people. We have this joke in Colombia where every single Hollywood film before the 90s or even during the 90s was showing the country as a jungle. It was like, we're Bogota, and there's like parrots and crocodiles, and that's not what it is about. I think having those world staging changes, stages changing, and a big part of that comes from Despacito. Honestly, the amount of times we had it as a brief, the amount of times we had it as a reference, and we started feeding the public with something that was completely new. And you, Andres and Mauricio, you changed the landscape, and a lot of things started blossoming after that storm. And it is in the picking of whatever was blossoming and showing people this is what we do in an authentic way, that I think very little by little from this massive phenomena, and without you knowing, you have changed the lives of a lot of music professionals, me included, over in London, who are now empowered by many other labels to look for more composers from Latin America because people want this. And the interesting thing is that with the independent creation of many other productions, people do no longer want the synthetic, not authentic way. We don't want this person, even if it takes a little bit more work. We want to go to the source, and that enables, as Chip was saying, that enables a lot of creators that previously did not have an outlet to be found. But it is the job of music supervisors to keep an eye out for that. So authenticity, it's there. It's now viable as a business, but the visibility is still quite a challenge.
Amazing, absolutely. And Andres and Mauricio, is that something that you like talk about with your artists when you start producing something for them, especially for the American market? Are you what do you say to them? Like what would you say to the artists connected with us today about the music they're writing in this market right now?
I think right now especially is we're in a little bit of everything goes, and in the best way. I mean, in the authentic way that everybody has said in this panel. So since the beginning, since we started working together, Mauricio and me, and probably since forever, we've been always very aware of what we're doing in the room. So when we sit to work with an artist, we really want to maximize whatever this person is doing. And I don't think we even have this kind of discussions. We just go with it. We just sit down, and if it's authentic, it will just happen. We don't need to bring a philosophy or anything like that. Or usually the artists that come and work with us, they know what they want, and we just have to try to make it as best as possible. But lately, definitely our heads are completely open to everything. But we are married with doing music in Spanish because we do a little bit of English and stuff like that, but we know that what we have is so it's so important. Like what we're speaking about is so important. The moment that we're living in the Latin music. So there was a little brief time in when Despacito happened that we were like, oh, but now we need to move to the Anglo market or something like that. And it was very brief because we understood really quickly that what we had was what people wanted. Why change it? Why try to be different? Why try to move to Los Angeles to make it into the big leagues when the Latin music was the big leagues? So now definitely that's something that we do. We just sit down and do what we do and hope for the best, hope for another perfect storm if it happens. But we don't necessarily sit and have like a complete discussion because also I think it might ruin the vibe, and you know how delicate a songwriting session can be. But so we just basically go. But yeah, anything goes nowadays.
There's also this, people used to say that the important thing is the song, and if the song's a hit, it's a hit. And that's not true right now. It's important that the person that is singing the song makes it believable. So we don't just sit down and write a catchy chorus anymore. And some days you could do that. Right now you can't. Like the artists have to sell the song right now, and the people won't believe it. You can do the most amazing chorus. You can write Despacito, and if the right person doesn't sing it, like if Fonzi's not there and Yankee's not there, it's not gonna work in that particular moment. So we just go with the artist and start like treating from, I don't know, his needs, his energies, his taste or whatever, and try to make it as catchy, as organized, as well produced as possible, but coming from his, I don't know, talent and taste.
Because Chip and Chris, like it's awesome that you guys are both in this panel because you guys worked on something very, very unique and it was amazing. These guys worked at a beautiful campaign for Real California Milk, and I think it's a great example and great representation of this Latin influence in the American market. So let's talk a little bit about that campaign.
Yes, I had the pleasure of working with Chris and with the team at Butter Music on a very special project. Real California Milk came to Deutsch, and they said, they did some analytics, and they observed that 47% of their customer base is Latin or Latinx, and with the remaining being divided among everyone else. So they knew that their most dedicated audience were Latin. They wanted to get in, so they sort of wanted to capitalize on, I'm sure that you all have noticed this, but it all started with McDonald's, right? And Travis Scott and the meal that they put together, it reinvigorated the relationship and the partnerships between music and branding in a way that I've never experienced before. And I will always thank the team that did that, because it has supercharged what I can do as a music supervisor for ads. So when that happened, you sort of started to see that trend spread across other brands. I was obviously doing stuff with Taco Bell and Doja Cat and Dolly Parton. Real California Milk came to us and they said, we want to get in the game too. But we want to have a hand in spotlighting an artist. So we don't want to reach out to somebody who is signed. We want somebody who's independent. And they gave us the brief, and the brief was essentially, we are California Milk, so it's important to us that they're California talent. We want to target our Latin audience, and so we think it's important that they are bilingual. We want to try and write a song that has English, Spanish worked into the same set of lyrics. So it was an interesting brief because they genuinely wanted to push authenticity. But when you take authenticity and you cram it through the filter of advertising, you have to be so careful not to come off as cliche or undermining. And so it was a really delicate process. So the first thing we had to do was find the right talent. That was the really fun part. But I don't like elephant in the room. I'm a white guy, so I'm not as tapped into Spanish artists as I would love to be. I am smart enough to know that there are people in my wheelhouse that can help with that. Butter had a multicultural department in their production wing, and I reached out to them. I was like, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. The brief is, let's find an amazing, undiscovered, untapped Latin talent and put them in this commercial. They're going to star in it. They're going to perform the song. They're going to be able to advise on the lyrics, like everything from start to finish. So we started putting feelers out there, and then it came down to like who this talent is going to be. Do we want it to be male, female? We had to make sure that they were based in California. And then another caveat, because they always throw more and more, boxes to check, was they wanted somebody with reach, right? So, after a long journey, we met Chris, and then you had to get to the subject of lyrics, right? So we had, oh my gosh, you guys, this is where lawyers get involved, and they're like, you can't say that, but you can say that, but you need to say it this way and change that word. So we had a set of lyrics that were written by a bunch of white copywriters, right? And we were like, okay, so translate this. And I was like, it's not that easy, because you can't translate English to Spanish and it's not going to be apples to apples. The rhyme scheme is different. So that started this like very intense process, a lot of back and forth with us, with Chris, with the team at Butter, to hone in those lyrics to make it work. And not only that, but they were like, oh, and by the way, can you help us find the perfect hook for this, right? And so it took a lot of revisions back and forth, and then sharing it with the client. And then they would actually get back to us and be like, this is great, but we want to push the Spanish like 10% more. And we're like, how do you do that? Like, what can you tell us what you mean? You know? And so it just, there's no way of there's no perfect science to it. It's just a trial and error, right? So you push it a little bit more, and then they're like, okay, that's great, but now we think we're losing a little bit of the you know, the English appeal as well. So like, let's pull it back. Finally, to arrive at a song that worked for everybody. And then as a music supervisor, having a hand in giving a deserving artist the spotlight the way that Real Milk did and the way that we could with Chris. I just remember being in the trailer with you, Chris, when we were on set, and being like holding back tears because I was so excited for you, you know, and for what this would mean to your career as well.
I didn't realize when I said yes to this opportunity that it was gonna literally surround me by some of the leading voices in the ad world, in the music industry at large. Like being on set with Chris, the director, he's leading his company, Lucky Bastards. Like they just did a bunch of videos for like Lizzo, Anita, like they worked with Karol G, Lil Nas, like they are freaking legends. But I'm on set with them, and I'm kind of, you know how sometimes like you've heard the name, but you don't associate the face, and you're in the room with a bunch of like leading voices, but you're unaware of it in a way. So I'm just doing me, you know what I mean? But like, it's crazy because then I'm like on social media, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Like, because everybody is so kind and so good at what they do and so amazing. But I think one thing that always stuck with me was like Chip, when we were talking in the trailer, was like, he said, you know, continue leading with kindness, because talent will get you so far, but like your character will actually like keep you there, and it'll actually go further a lot of times. And so I remember when Chip said that, like I was holding back tears because I was like, how is someone so amazing like you taking the time to like encourage, give me advice, like, and also just believing in me. In this moment, it was like my music was being spotlighted.
From the mountains to the coast, it's the state with the most. We do tacos from the city to every little town. Best bites, best vibes, California hands down. Somos la crema de la crema, con mucho sol todo el año. Cuidado que te quemas. We're breaking the mold, shining like gold. Nunca pares, no te quedes helado. Siempre pa'lante en el estado dorado. Stack that cheddar, make it melt, cook it up, stretch it out. So much flavor en mi estado tan bello. Lo encuentras cuando ves este sello. Go and check my drip, take a bite, feeling fit. It's California freestyle, so make your place. Helados with the sprinkles right in front of your face. We're breaking the mold, shining like gold. Nunca pares, no te quedes helado. Siempre pa'lante en el estado dorado. Vive en el estado dorado, live in the golden state.
I mean, it was incredible. I would go as far as saying life-changing, like one of the best experiences I've had, because obviously working in the ad world, when it comes to like performance, music, even like how you execute like your tone, singing, like it's different. It's not like my catalog music, but at the same time, it wasn't so separate from what I was doing. So it felt very connected in a way, you know, because it was literally Latin pop. It was like we were filming not a commercial, a music video, a freaking movie. Like they had me in like 7-8 different outfits. Like I remember like going through like styling, and I was like, usually I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing my hair, my makeup, and meanwhile I'm on set and there's someone putting on my earrings and someone else doing my makeup, someone else doing my hair. I'm like, this is nice, but like I'm so used to being in the grinds of things that now I'm like in a place where I'm literally seeing how all of it is coming together through all of these amazing people, and it was just unbelievable.
It's amazing that you touch on like the essence that we all know that this is not a sprint. You know, this thing is a marathon, and you either love this or get the hell out, because takes time, and this takes passion, takes love, and you never know when something so unexpected can change your career or introduce you to new people. You know, something like 5 years ago that something like Real California Milk would introduce you to certain producers or people like Chip, and then You know, you never know. You really don't know when
I
things
wasn't even,
might change.
yeah, I wasn't aware of the world of advertisement. But what I didn't realize was everything I was doing became my card of presentation. Like it was the thing that made me even have a voice or a space to be able to now come and be like, oh, this isn't anything. I don't need to be doing anything different. Like I just need to do me. And that was so liberating in itself, you know, and it was awesome because it was the moment where I could say, this thing pays off.
Yeah.
Like it pays off, but it also pays off with relationship, which I think is also the most valuable thing and the thing that we do, right? When we can build these bridges and connect and be on a panel like this and meet each other and inspire and empower other people, representation, culture, like it's such a privilege.
The whole idea of this panel, even of AMP, is to, you know, create this awareness that it's not just being an artist has so many different playing fields now. We have to be grateful that we're in a day and age that music is so much more than just releasing records and all that. There's so many avenues, you know, for a lot of the people connected today, whether you're a composer, whether you're an artist.
I would be nothing if it weren't for the network that I have. I mean, all credit is due to the labels, to the publishers, to the songwriters, to the musicians that I've had the pleasure of working with. I'm not the talented one. I just have spots to put their talent. And if it weren't for them and that network, I value my network so much. So it's true. Get out there, go to those functions, those mixers. You never know who you're going to talk to.
So, I mean, you only get better and have more experience under your belt when you say yes, when you're flexible. And I think the world of ad kind of provides that opportunity too, because at that point, you're not doing things the way maybe you would naturally do it, but you're kind of like responding to orders, but it's nothing personal. It's just all for the best interests of what, you know, the final product is going to be. So we're really happy with how it turned out.
I want to talk a lot about the struggles, you know, that we still live. Like for example, I mean, Andres and Mauricio, you guys are record producers. Felipe, you as well are creating music. So we're used to being in the studio, being in our box, being in our world. When the music goes out there, it's a whole different playing field. So you guys work with amazing artists, incredible, you know, A-list stars. I'm sure there's you guys would love to get more stuff placed and synced. Like, what's kind of some of the struggles that you guys feel in that?
When you try to think, when they give you a pitch and you try to nail that pitch, it usually doesn't happen.
Right.
What happens a lot, and it goes really well, is that people just like what you did. They like this song. So the majority of our sings are just songs that have done well and that people really like, and they sing it because of what you were saying before, Chip, about the authenticity and about like the freshness. So I think that would be my only recommendation for people that are trying to do songs for pitch is don't do things literally, because we have done it before. We have tried to do that for movies. We have tried to do that, and it rarely works. They all of a sudden they like this song that has nothing to do with the pitch or what they gave you as a brief, and that's what works. So for us, it has been more, not obsessing with the brief and more doing songs that make sense, that you will want to hear also. That you will want to hear if you're talking about a movie or you're talking about a commercial or something like that. You will want to hear that, and I think that's what has worked for us.
Maybe parts of the struggle are the waiting, because we do a song pretty fast, but then a million things have to happen in order to come out. I don't know, the artist is touring or whatever, and he doesn't like the song, and he says no, and then a year later he calls you and, no, I want this song now. It's the perfect song, and no, we already gave it to another guy, whatever. But you have to like this a lot, like as a hobby, because it takes us, a lot of people that is watching this, it takes a lot of time. Not necessarily to write or produce or record a video or all that, but for a song to work. And you can release, I don't know, 10 and they don't work. And you can release 100 and they don't work. Maybe the 101 works. So you have to like it because it takes time.
So it's interesting because rather than being attending pitches and briefings where we create music for someone that is requesting it, we are more proactive rather than reactive, which allow us to play a little bit more. So instead of there is this specific pitch for this particular thing, we're going to write the track and then it gets rejected, and then I'm going to have to sit on it for a year until someone maybe will take it. what we do is that we're constantly generating music. The whole of West One Music produces somewhere around 100 albums a year, and we're constantly just pushing tracks out. And I think that the struggle with that becomes that sometimes you feel like people are still latching a bit to the stereotype, and it's difficult because you're trying to create something genuine. I really like what Chip was saying, which is how do you attend the need to something authentic without falling into something that is cheesy. In this case, cheesy is what you needed. In this particular case, no, you needed something that was pretty unique, but at the same time, you don't want to fall on the trap of doing what everyone has done before, because that's not what we are here. That's not our skill. We're here to bring what we know how to do. And the challenge and the struggle are pretty much the same, which is this is something still new, and this is something still unfamiliar. And sometimes all you can do is play the numbers game. And that's pretty much the secret behind publishers. It's about having a large amount of tracks, to which then some people have that they say they have the skill, that they are really good at producing really good soundtracks or hits. The problem is that they are usually the ones that they didn't think were going to be the hit, and those are the ones that make it. But it keeps being a numbers game. But the struggle in and of its own becomes that the market still wants something that is still forward, while the expectations are, I think, are still from an Anglo-Western North Hemisphere lead genres, while we are creating our own kind of music. So it's a struggle that is changing, is shifting very slowly, but it's still there, and you can still sometimes feel a little bit of a pullback from specific requests.
But when it comes to working with music and the struggles that I face sometimes as a music director, it's plain and simple. And I know I'm talking to a lot of producers here. Have your stems, have your instrumental, have it ready. Because in my world, I work extremely fast. And having even just your instrumental ready, and always actually deliver an instrumental with the full mix every time, just do it. Because that could make the difference of keeping you in the conversation or not, right? Which is why I work with people that I trust to have all of that, like the team at Butter, who I know is on here right now. They have the stems, they can happen to me in minutes if I need them. And sometimes it just works out that way, where they're like, you know what, we're in the mix. We just found out this song doesn't work for us, and we need something new that we can mix right now. So just being buttoned up on that level is like my biggest takeaway always, because my biggest fear is falling in love with an artist or a song and wanting it so bad, and then the opportunity going away because I didn't have the tools to get there. At this point, disco is almost commonplace, and I love receiving disco links, because even if it's from your disco, I can hit that button that says save it to my disco, and I can go find it later when I need it. So certainly a big pitch for a disco. And then while I have the floor, another round of just to pitch the idea of turning in your B-sides. Like, we've heard it a lot today, like the song that you don't think is going to be the one that they'd love, that's the one they end up going for because it's unique, because it's askew. So if you're ever pitching music for an ad, you've got your 10 submissions, throw in a couple of B-sides, like always have those ready to put in there, because it's definitely going to be something that's listened to more than once.
Is there also like too much submissions? This can be also a bad thing. How much should you be sending out?
If somebody sends me a pitch of like more than 20 tracks, it's unlikely that I'm getting through all of them. That's just the truth, because I do try to be very fair. And if I reach out to 10 vendors to get song submissions, I want to listen to at least all of them. But if somebody's trying to take too much of my time, so like 10, 15, maximum 20, I always try to stick to 20. That's how many I turn into my creative directors at the end of the day with every poll. So here I have a very unique captive audience, full of producers who I can't wait to hear from. And if you want to stay in touch about the opportunity, you kind of know all the boxes we're trying to check in terms of being from California, yada, yada. We might even be a little lighter on that prerequisite this year anyway. So I'm going to drop my email in there. And if anybody would like to reach out and share some music or share some thoughts, I would greatly appreciate it.
What subgenres within the Latin music umbrella do you see bubbling to the forefront next?
I just replied with a little bit of a thing. There is a massive trend, and I think we're already late for it. But it's corridos tumbados from Mexico, and it's I don't know if anyone has heard it, but I still don't believe it when I hear it. I just, everyone be my guest, go online and check corridos tumbados. There's a guy, can't remember his name, but corridos tumbados is just guys with a requinto, just talking about like the young, is like regional Mexican contemporary in a very small scale. There's Pisadinha in Brazil, which is like an evolution of Sertaneja with more electronic things. And I have been getting very slowly a few things from Colombia that are Amapiano, which is a genre that I think it's originally from South Africa. And I wouldn't say there is a big trend towards it. Maybe Mauricio and Andres will know more about this, but it was the first time I heard it 3 weeks ago, and ever since I've been getting more and more music from that style, which is interesting because it's not originally from Colombia, but we are taking it. We're kind of liking it over there.
Advice, please, you on the artist side, how to get more exposure, what you're doing right now, what advice you would give to independent artists to be where you're at, to have the opportunities that you're having. And then I'll ask Andres and Mauricio the same thing, to record producers out there. How can they, get more exposure to synchronization? What kind of advice you would give them in this day and age? Let's start with you, Chris. Mujeres primero.
I would say just don't wait for the moment, create it. Use what you have, use your resources. If it's just a little voice memo on your phone, that has the potential of being something amazing, but you have to start somewhere. And I think just like, don't overthink it. I think we're our worst critics. So a lot of times, like, I know I get in my head and I'm like, before I've even started developing the idea, I'm like, this is whack and I want to throw it away. Don't throw it away. That whack idea, that initial concept, or that thing that you were listening to that maybe inspired you, like, is probably the beginning of something amazing, but you have to commit to it. I would say committing to the process is like the key to success, because it's easy to start something, it's hard to follow through. And so to have all your ducks in a row, and like Chip said, like to have like your instrumentals and to have like all of your catalog, kind of like bring organization and structure too. As a creative, it's easy to just create, but then just have like all your archives and papers mixed and whatever. And it's just like, make sure as you're creating, you have a paper trail in a way, like I think all of those things work together to create opportunity, and not just lead by the creativity part, but also being able to add that structure that I think sustains the career and allows you to work with other creatives in a way that's like, I know for me, it's very satisfying to see like a producer or a songwriter that like has a very defined catalog and idea of what they're trying to do. It's easier to work with someone when you see kind of the paper trail and stuff like that. So I would say that just like be encouraged to use your voice to be that representation of who you are. And in that authenticity, like you're going to inspire and empower someone out there without even knowing you are. But that actually turns into the thing that gets your foot in other doors that you never even imagined. And so create the moment, don't wait for it, and do it.
I would keep it very simple. Do one song a day. One song a day. That's it. Do one song a day. The other stuff is, the other stuff. Everybody's saying that. But if you sit every day and you do one song, that's the numbers game.
Put in those hours.
We often people say I'm a perfectionist, and they think that's a good thing to say. You have to be good, but it's better to release 25 good songs than one perfect song. It's way better to release the 25. So just keep it flowing.
Absolutely. It reminds me of the Jack Joseph Puig picture of him on the board as a skeleton. Like the mix is never done. We just have to believe in what you do, and put it out there, let it happen, because you never know when that one song that you thought wasn't going to work was going to work. So thank you guys for that advice. And guys, thank you once again, Chris, Chip, Felipe, Andres, Mauricio. Thank you guys so much for taking some of your time to being with us. Thank you everybody at AMP. Thank everybody that was today on this panel with us. This has been amazing. And thank you so much to Brian that helped us put this together on the technical side. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys keep talking to each other. I think there's a lot of great opportunities with these amazing people. Thanks for the advice. And hopefully we will have this again soon.